So I'm not a massive Jaguar, Land Rover mechanical genius of any sorts. No, I'm not a mechanical genius at all. I'll have a go though. But with the Land Rover side of things, there's just scare stories and worry about what to do. And I put this thing off for a long time. But I've decided to have a tackle of the juddery noise. We're getting close to MOT time. MOT for the Discovery is in August. And I've been having a bit of a debate about, do I sell it as it is? Do I get an MOT and then sell it? Do I keep it? Whatever. Every time I get in it, I just want to keep it. So I'm trying to think of, well, if I can find ways to get the things fixed that need to be fixed. There was someone who made a comment on one of the other videos. It wasn't one where I asked for a question. It was what can we do, or what can I do about the judder noise that I've got, or vibration I've got under the car. And someone said propshaft, and I was like, well, yeah, okay. I don't know much about propshaft, but I did a load of digging and decided to have a little look. Turns out the centre bearing of the propshaft, which common sense would suggest to you when you look at it, if that's going, you're going to get vibration. For those that aren't mechanically minded, on a four-wheel drive car such as the Discovery, the gearbox is at the front. The gearbox will split out two wheels, so the front wheels are then driven from the front through two drive shafts. Out the back of the gearbox also comes another prop shaft, and that prop shaft takes the drive, if you like, all the way from the front of the car to the back of the car, splits it again, so you've then got the four-wheel drive because the two rear-wheel drives are going, two rear wheels are going. If you think about that, if there's a bit of movement in those shafts that are running around everywhere, it's going to vibrate and wobble. I'm hoping that I've I found the problem, and I'm going to talk you through what I'm doing in one sec. So now I've taken the prop shaft off, the main prop shaft in the middle of the car. There's plenty of videos online showing us how to do this, but I was like, well, I don't know whether it's going to be a problem or not. Then I saw something that said there's a really easy way of investigating to see if that middle section needs sorting or not. To take it out, it was a simple case of, there are 6 Torx bolts there. You need special Torx. Fortunately I had them anyway. Bolts to go in there. I'll show you when I refit that back in again if it's working. And at another end, it's again same size Torx. That takes it off of the rear end. That's the rear that goes to the rear wheels. There are only 4 on there, 6 on the front. Those 4 they were Loctite, or had like thread lock on the threads, so they were really quite tough to get out. A combination of, like you can see, I've got a tyre, making sure I've got no slip, using the handbrake, not using the handbrake, several jacks and axle stands just to make sure I've got access. But even still, getting underneath this on the driveway is a lot more simple because it's such a huge car ground clearance in the first place. Anyway, so this is the offending item that I suspect will be the problem. It might mean that this whole prop shaft is knackered because it's been so worn. But when you investigate, if you go under the car, you can take the heat shield off. It's easy to see the heat shield's there. It's just 10 mil. I think it's 10 mils, 5 of those, which then removes the heat shield, and it's obvious to see where this section is. That is clamped to the underside of the car, and this is running through. So this is running from front to back to transfer all of that energy to the rear wheels. If you look at this, that's clamped to the underside of the car. This is running front to back. So the idea is this needs to have a bit of flex, a bit of movement. You can see it's moving here. The idea is it's allowed to move a little bit, but there are tolerances for it to move. And this is not an acceptable amount of movement. As you can see from that, it is completely and utterly shagged. And again, people get scared by it, but this is a serviceable item. You can see there, that's a rubber joint. That's there's a bearing inside there. Let's move that out of the way. There you go. So that is the centre bearing. You can hear it moving. So that sounds like it's not exactly happy anyway, with the noise it's making, a bit grindy. But you can see there's the rubber bits that are all just peeling off. That rubber is just completely perished. And again, this car's 2009, and it's done just under 150,000 miles. A rubber component like that is going to go. And looking online, they're like between 35 and 50, I think, to get one of those. Splitting it should be a case of the end. Knock that off, and then I can refit it. But yeah, don't know how easy that's going to be. We'll have a look, shall we? Let's have a look and see how we get on. But anyway, so that's the problem. I think that's a problem, and I'll report back when I've actually had a go at trying to fix it, and I'll probably walk you through when I come to putting it back on again. I'll probably do some videos then. Yeah, that's it now. Right, so this is the old prop shaft here. I've separated it into two, and again, when you take it off the centre bearing, that was the one I said wasn't absolutely shafted, pardon the pun. The bearing was completely knackered, so I started to take it to pieces. To split those two apart is what you need to do, and then you need to pull this joint off to get a new centre bearing on. But when I started to sort of take it to pieces, it just felt, this section just felt a bit crunchy, almost like it had like grit inside of it. And the bearings are there, which they're covered in this muck. That's what I use for barbecue. I'm just something barbecue stuff out, so they're covering that. But there's the bearings that have come out of it. They seemed okay. But when I was taking it apart with the whole grinding piece, I thought, well, let's have a look and see what's inside. Because if it's like really lacking in oil, maybe a bit of decent oil would have gone in there and would have been better. But when I took it apart and saw it was absolutely packed full of oil, or grease still, rather than oil, if it was packed full of grease. The grease was very, very black, but at the same time I thought, I don't really see that there's much point in keeping the prop shaft if it felt like that. There was a bit of a concern for me with that side of things. Subsequently, when I've done some more research after changing my mind of what I was going to do, I found that it's quite common for these to wear as well, and there is quite a bit of play. It's quite free and quite loose on that end. Then I looked at the cost of a new diff or a new transfer box, and those come in at around £1,000. And I thought, well, thinking about it from a sensible perspective, or just from an engineering perspective, without knowing what's going on and like looking at tolerances, if this is connected here and that centre shaft is there and it's got so much play in it that it really shouldn't have, I don't see how that can have done that joint on its own any favours. Then you've got the joints at either end. I can't see how those two joints would have done themselves any favours. And they're also connected to two pieces of kit which cost £1,000 each. So if there's any tolerances that are out or remain out on this, it's just, I just didn't think it was worthwhile not getting an entirely new prop shaft. We come down to the universal joint as well, and I subsequently had a look, and I think it's LR time, I think they're called. But this bit here, and I don't know if you can hear, you might be able to hear, might be able to pick it up. It knocks on the centre, and again here, the camera might pick that up. It goes clonk clonk. It's a bit like when your hips are a bit sore. It just doesn't work properly. So that was the issues I had with those. So I thought, well, overall, then I come over to what I've done. I bought a brand new one from Paddock Spares over in Matlock. They're not too far from where I am. This end, where I just showed you that one, this end is much tighter than what's come off. So that's a benefit for a start. This, as you can see, the centre bearing is there, and I think someone else showed a video. I haven't done it yet. Oh, one sec. So spin that over, and then you can see the amount of tolerance, the amount of play that you've got in that centre joint is just nothing. Next, to confirm that I was happy with my choice, is there's a bit of rubber here. It's just a little yellow bit of rubber which comes out. Now if it ships with that in, it suggests that they're concerned that in shipping that those two joints banging against each other in an incorrect amount of way, or over stressing it, is a concern. So if they're concerned enough just for shipping, then I need to be much more concerned if that is completely and utterly knackered. And I mean, I've had this car for about 9 months. It's always judded. It's got a bit worse recently, so there's a chance that it's at least 9 months that has been banging around too much on here. Then down to this end, where the universal joint is, here, again, I've got a fly around my head. So that bit just rolls completely and utterly smoothly. So that's a totally different feeling. It's just very smooth, very easy to move compared to the one that's come off. So I think it was a good decision to change it, and I'll take a little bit of a video of me putting it in the car. There's plenty of videos online. I'll just spin it around again. There's plenty of videos online about how to do the prop shaft. It really isn't all that complicated. I'll just show you a bit from my side. There's just 5 bolts that hold on the heat shield. Take that off first. That gives you access to the centre bearing to check that. And then there's 4 on the universal joint end, 4 bolts that are torqued very like high. They're like 150 or 155 torque newton meters, and then there's 6 bolts on the other end, the joint and transfer case. So that's all the bolts that go into it. I'll put them back on again. Yeah, I'll be back under the car in a bit. So here we are back under the car, under the Discovery 3, with the prop shaft underway. What we're talking from here, I'll just ping it round and show you underneath. So I've left the yellow fixing in place just for now. It's nice and loose, so that will just rip out when it's finished. I gave that a quick wire brush on the mounting plate. I've got the bolts that go in there as well, giving them I gave them a quick go over with the brush as well. I've just mounted the centre bearing on just very loosely put those brackets in. Highly recommend one of these Sutton Auto Factors, where I get all my bits from, and that was wonderful. A USB. Right, and then this is in here. There's a cable tie around it, so that's obviously holding the joint together before it's getting fitted. I'm a little bit concerned about knowing exactly where that fits. I'm hoping that because I didn't mess with the diffs or anything else, it's all been left as it was when it came out. So if the back is lined up, then the front should be lined up. But what I'm going to do now is just chuck a bolt in there first of all, and then put some in the other end and see if we can get a bit of success. Right, so prop shaft is pretty much back on. A couple of little bits to do. I think from a complexity perspective, it's not that hard. I don't think it would be, but you never know until you've actually finished the job. Well, it's not finished yet, and I haven't road tested it, so don't want to count my chickens. As far as sketchy things as well, there are sometimes things that I'm not sure. All I would say is at the moment, the car is in neutral, the handbrake's off, it's jacked up at the back, the wheels at the back are off the ground, and the front wheels are on the ground. I've got another wheel in front of the wheel up front to try and stop it if it did roll. It's a fairly flat driveway anyway, and it hasn't moved. And worst case scenario, the car falls off the jack. And as I was playing earlier with the diff oil, I can actually do the diff oil without jacking the car up. So if it did fall, it would scare the shit out of me, but I think I'll be all right. Right, back onto the actual job then. I'll show you a sec. So what I've done that end is I put 2 in the end, put 2 bolts in there with some thread lock on. They came out with some, like I say, some serious work, and then that's when I put it into neutral and rotated it around to do the other 2. It's harder to do with one hand, but yeah, there's just 4 on there. It turns out as well that on the other end, these ones, if you line the universal joint end up the other end, then these bolts won't find their homes against the transfer box. So I found that out because I put 2 bolts in the other end. These wouldn't line up, so I had to turn the universal joint round, which then meant that they lined up. So that was quite straightforward to figure out how and why. Everything else seems to have gone in. The 13 mil, they were 13 mils, weren't they? Yeah, 13 mils. The bolts that went in there have gone in quite easily. Just to give you an example as well, so I've just got one hand. The amount of play that you should expect to see on your centre joint. There, can you see it? That's how much. I think I'll go from the right hand this time. My stronger arm. So you can see there's a bit of movement there, but not too much. And that is the amount of play that you should be expected. If you've got any more than that, get it changed. It really isn't worth messing around with. So that can come out now as well. This is where I find out I've got to take the whole thing off just to get this out right. Or my torch will smash me in the face as I do it. So let's get this out. No, I have to do it off camera with 2 hands. Yeah, so that will come out. I'm then going to have to put it back into, I think, handbrake on. Handbrake is pretty decent on this. I've replaced the rear brakes discs and pads a little while ago. So the actual the handbrake is nice and tight. So that should give me enough to torque these up to 155 on the back. I won't torque the ones at the front because my torque range doesn't go down that low. But I think the idea is that because you're into a sort of a relatively thin bit of metal here, there's 6 of those to hold that. So what you don't want to do is over tighten it. So yeah, I'll just do that by feel, and get the torque done for the ones at the back. And I think that's about job done. I'll let you know. Right, so debrief while I'm waiting in a queue. Our queue's moving now. It's all fitted, it's all working, and the judder's gone. No surprises. Yeah, so happy to report that if you've got a bit of a juddery sort of feeling, let's put this in. If you have a juddery sort of feeling from your car, your Discovery, in fact, or even any sort of 4x4, just get under and check the prop shaft. I can't believe that I had the car for 9 months and didn't try and investigate, didn't try and figure out what was going wrong. I might have saved myself a couple of £100 on the cost of the shaft and only done the bearing, but it is driving much better. Only a quick short run just to nip to the tip to drop off some brake discs and other metal bits I've been taking off of other cars recently. But yeah, get it looked at, and if you have a need to change your prop shaft on a Discovery 3, get it done. It's quite straightforward, quite easy. Do it.